Good morning, everyone. This is Costantino. I'm the sales director of GCC. Thank you for joining us today in our first virtual event. That's the first event that we are doing under the current format, and we hope that we meet the expectations of everybody. I just wanted to say a quick hello, and we will go through together a few slides. I will share with you my thoughts about IT people and what happened to us during the lockdown, and what we expect to happen after the lockdown. What is going to be the effect on us? It's going to be quite quick, so that we quickly jump into the day and kickstart the sessions. Once more, I would like to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you are all back at your daily routines, that you are all and your families are well, and let's hope that the lockdown era is well behind us. So let's start. Going through the contents. As I told you, I'm gonna tell you a story about IT people. It's something that I've been reading in social media during the lockdown era, and I'm gonna be borrowing part of what I've read. So the next couple of slides are not mine, are borrowed. They've been edited, but they are not mine actually. I'm not claiming originality. So because of IT people, the entire world was and is still in a lockdown. I mean, we see every day what's going on around the world. The forecasts are being migrated now from Europe to South America. It's a hassle for everybody. It's not only for Cyprus. It's not only for Europe. It's a pandemic, and it's been worldwide. So, because of IT people, all banking systems continue to function. Because of IT people, ATMs works 24 hours a day. Because of IT people, the stock trading system continues to function. Because of IT people, all of hospitals are functioning. Because of IT people, 24 hours of monitoring keep all websites running and serving all of us. Because of IT people, internet help everybody get through the day. I can imagine what would have been a similar lockdown back in the 90s or early 90s. Because of IT people, thousands of mobile exist. Applications like Facebook, like WhatsApp, like LinkedIn, all these do exist, and they do serve people, helping them to get through their days, entertain themselves, get themselves interested throughout the day. Because of IT people, everybody continues to get constant updates on all news channels. Because of IT people, kids are learning online. Because of IT people, all lab test reports are accessible from everywhere for anyone. Because of IT people, even the power we have, we make sure that everything is served and goes to every household, an uninterrupted power supply. So IT people are doing a lot. I believe that the most critical function of the entire world during the last 3 months was the one imposed and held by the IT industry. So what's our rewards? What's the post-lockdown era will look like for IT people? What do we expect? The companies are regrouping, and that's normal. All companies are regrouping and are trying to see where the new day, the next day, will find themselves. They all try to stay afloat until economic normality, the economic pace returns back to normality. Which means, as phase one for IT people, cutbacks. We all know that IT budgets are usually the first to be reduced or frozen, if you want to call it like this. We expect IT projects to freeze. They will impose strict prioritization on our project list for the year, and we will be asked to do the absolute minimum. Definitely, there will be postponing new hirings. Therefore, we have to manage all the load, all the new challenges with the existing colleagues, with the existing specializations we have. As I said, keeping up with new challenges, it's going to be a daily hassle for everybody. Teleworking has come, and it seems that it's staying. Distances seem to be greater. Considering what happened during the late 90s till 2020, with the use of technology, people was getting together and getting closer. They were feeling closer. But currently, everything seems to be at a greater distance. The airports are closed, countries are closed. The vendors that support enterprises and corporations cannot really visit their customers. The local system integrators in every country, they cannot really visit their customers and provide their valuable services. So distances seems to be greater nowadays, which means that this imposes more risks, which mandate more security. Everything together makes a very complex environment that IT people need to manage. So, is that the new norm for us, for IT people? I believe it is. It seems that everybody likes the current status. It seems that everybody is even answering the surveys nowadays. They claim to be more productive. They claim to be to reach maximum productivity. That's the status. That's the case for us. But allow me here to say that during the lockdown period, the only people that were present, most of the people that were present were the IT people trying to support all the systems and all the labor force for all companies and enterprises worldwide, so that the business kept going. It seems that remote employees work more, and it seems that it's so good allowing people to work from home that it even increases the retention rate for companies. So we strongly believe that this is going to be the next norm, the next day for our industry. We believe that IT people will be asked to manage a huge remote labor force. So it's going to be a hybrid model. We believe it's going to be a hybrid model. And that increases the challenges that we will be facing. So what's in it for us? What should we expect? New challenges for sure. The NOCs and the SOCs need to be alerted 24/7. That's absolutely mandatory nowadays. With a huge number of people working from home, working at different hours, there won't be a minute within the 24 hours per day that no person won't be working or won't be wanting to access the IT resources of every enterprise or corporation. IT people will be asked to manage complex environment. I mean, just a glimpse of what IT people need to manage makes you wonder how can few people manage all this. We are discussing about borderless networks. So we are discussing about next generation firewalls that need to be in place, endpoints and IPsec clients, two-factor authentication, domain controllers, DNS servers, advanced threat protection with sandbox technologies, DLP, especially for the executive people of every enterprise. You need to be able to control what's in every endpoint of that executive. The telephony, people want to take their enterprise telephony back home and use it. Application workloads consumed nowadays from everywhere at any given time, wherever those workloads reside, either in the private cloud of an enterprise or even in the public cloud. So what we are actually asked to do is do more with less, and that's very. I mean, that's the meaning of that sentence is more. The impact of that sentence is more nowadays. We feel that we are really asked to do more with less, especially in the next 12 months. So around those challenges, around those areas, will our following next 3 hours, our today's sessions, we'll try and answer how we can address those challenges, how we can address the concerns of IT people. Is anyone listening? We need big budgets. We don't have big budgets. We need more specialized people. Without budgets, you cannot really hire new people. So the people that we have, the specialized people we have, we might have to make sure that they are equipped, well equipped, in order to do more. We need more time. We only have 24 hours per day. So what's the ideal scenario for IT people? What we want? Definitely connectivity, resilient connectivity at all times. We need integrated solutions that can be easily managed. We want smart security, which doesn't really have to be expensive. We definitely need visibility, enhanced visibility for any IT resources consumed. I mean, just imagine the current setup with companies having resources in the public cloud, in the private clouds. You need to have control through enhanced visibility, and definitely automation. If we want to decrease mean time to recovery, and if we want to reduce our risk exposure, we need to definitely equip our existing IT people with automation tools, which can help them become more efficient. This is the picture, and that's my last slide. That's a picture that we expect IT people to be asked to address in the next 12 months. And don't be surprised that even if we do all this, the ones who will get the credit, it won't be the IT people. Most probably it's going to be the compliance departments who will be celebrating their business continuity or disaster recovery plans thanks to IT people. And don't take me wrong. I mean, compliance departments, they should get the credit because they are doing what they are supposed to do and what they are paid to do. But the reality is that any business continuity plan for any respected enterprise will need to do and deploy that business continuity plan on the backs of IT people. So, with that, I would like to end my part and jump into our day. You will be hearing in the next 3 hours different sessions from 3 of our main partners in that area. Guardicore, they will be telling you how you can get visibility on every workload or anywhere that workload resides, and how you can better control it. Then Fortinet will jump in and start discussing about the new buzzwords like SD1, like integrated security and teleworking solutions, which can be integrated and better managed. And last but not least, NetBrain. We will be discussing about the automation and how can help IT people reduce significantly the time to recovery. That's all for my side. I would like to thank you once more, everybody, for joining us today. And I'm giving the word to my dear friend Eran from Guardicore.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Hello, guys. Pleasure being here. Thank you for the time. I'm just going to share my screen. Konstantinos, I need you to stop sharing, please. Thank you. Okay. Okay, guys. Do you see my screen? Excellent. I think you do. So, hey all, pleasure being here, given the opportunity to talk a bit about Guardicore's approach to modern segmentation. My name is Eran Chaim. I'm the system engineer for Guardicore from Mediterranean, Nordics, and Balkan regions. We see that actually today's networks are growing ever complex, and security measurements are having actually trouble keeping up because customers are struggling trying to solve complex issues in their network with great effort. And the challenges actually are the result of all the network segmentation approaches, which are limiting the way that customers can achieve their ultimate goals and accomplish what they really need. So here at Guardicore, we started a company to simplify the way that customers actually solve complex segmentation challenges in hybrid environment, in flat networks, it doesn't matter. And today we're going to discuss it in detail and talk about different use cases and benefits that a customer experience from that, and also talk about how we address remote workers in this time of the pandemic when everyone started working from home. Okay. So Guardicore is a data center cloud security company. We were founded in 2013, over 200 employees. We have tremendous growth over the last years from many customers that we are dealing with, whether it's the financial district from major customers that you can see here from TD Banks and their Deutsche Bank, all with tens of thousands of agents and workload protected with hybrid environment, flat networks. We also see, for example, pharma companies such as Novartis, retail as Gap and Staples. We also have some gaming companies such as Betfair, which, as you know, latency and performance really matters for them. So again, we have customers from many different vectors, all with their special use case. Because this product is so flexible, you can basically adjust it to many different types of segmentation and visibility use case. And we'll discuss that in the following slides. By the way, I encourage you to leave questions in the Q&A section. I will address them at the end of the presentation. So we see actually that data center is transforming, right? If usually we saw that we had an on-prem environment comprised of bare metal servers or virtual machines, and now we have many types of virtualization techniques. It can be VMware, it can be Hyper-V, OpenStack, it can be a lot of different virtualization techniques. And we also see that customers are now moving to the public cloud. If it's Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle, which are our customers again, and many different operating systems, and now containers also, and orchestration for containers. So a lot of different technologies are rising up and integrating into our networks, into our customer networks. And we see that our customers are finding it hard to deal with these technologies with the traditional tools they had. So visibility in the same network, or control over hybrid environments, trying to manage the cloud tools, or if you want to move from one cloud to another, you need to learn a new tool. You need to manage the firewall in the on-prem and the Kubernetes in the container environment. You have a lot of different things to manage, which result in blind spots and increased risk. And if you thought about it, segmentation was never easy, right? It's only getting harder as a result of what we mentioned before. Usually when I go to customers, we see that their networks are rather flat, actually. It means that they have some VLANs that segment the networks through a centralized point of enforcement, but inside the VLANs, they usually don't know what is happening. And as a result, they can't even, they don't know and they can't control, even if they did, because they just, again, they're not aware of who is talking to who. And if, for example, they want to move some servers from the old VLAN, the big VLAN, it will most certainly be painful. It will cause downtime. The lack of visibility would risk us breaking the application. For example, if you want to move the front end back in a database, you might miss some flow and then break the application once you move it. It, of course, like we said, involves downtime, multiple teams, move maybe the server to a new rack, create new file rules. So doing the segmentation in traditional way with VLAN segmentation and central point of reinforcement is very manual and causes us great risk. Generally gives the customer the conclusion that he should stay the way it is until he has a new re-architecture of the network or something is changing. So most of the time, we see customers are staying in this way until they have a major networking or architectural refresh. If we think about the fact that most of the traffic is east-west, okay, is internal to the data center, it means, and most of our protection mechanisms are on the perimeter for someone who's trying to get in. It means that if someone is able to get into the data center, to your data center, he will most likely stay there for a lot of time before anyone notices him, because there is just nothing to block him there. There is nothing to see him there. Okay, so this is a problem that we are addressing with Guardicore. And Guardicore's approach to this situation is actually, first of all, to give you visibility, complete visibility to everything that is happening in your network. Okay, so from a single pane of glass, and I know it's a marketing word, but this is actually the case here, you can see whether it's bare metal server, virtual machines, cloud instances, containers, everything you can see from a single pane of glass and visualize down to the process level, the communication between application and assets in your environment. This is very important because it doesn't matter if your assets are in the same network, in hybrid environments, in highly segmented, it doesn't matter. You can see everything from a single place and understand what is happening in your network. Based on this visibility map, you can configure the policy. So Guardicore doesn't force you to configure a policy just by rules or something. We suggest the policy for you based on the flows that we see in the network. Okay, so you're able to just select flows and whitelist them. You don't need to guess if two hosts are talking to one another. No need to go through logs. Just look at the map, see if the two hosts are communicating, and decide if you block it or allow it. So basically, very easy to configure the policy, and we'll show that in a second. There is no networking changes required. This means that if you have a brownfield environment, which is a flat network or highly segmented but not in a sufficient way, Guardicore can be introduced on top of that without any issue. We do not require you to change the network to install any appliance or anything. We can work seamlessly with the existing network without any downtime required to any application. Okay. This is important because we can be introduced into many different areas without any downtime. The first thing we'll give you is visibility, and then based on the visibility, you can create the enforcement, which is a much simpler way for segmentation. This results faster time to policy and production. That if you don't need to install any hardware, you just deploy software, it's much faster to reach what you want. You don't need to schedule a maintenance window, just deploy the agent, as this is an agent-based solution on your servers, and protect them as you like. Okay. Also, this solution works with DevOps and automation framework. So if you have a pipeline to introduce new virtual machines into the network or cloud, this is something that Guardicore can be incorporated in. Okay, so how Guardicore Central works, we have our centralized management platform that users log into. They manage their different infrastructure, whether they're bare metal servers, virtual machines, cloud instances, and containers, as we mentioned before. We manage all of them from a single place. We have orchestration to connect to different sources, such as vSphere to import information, Azure, AWS, GCP, OCI. We have many different types of orchestration, also Active Directory that we'll discuss in the next part of the presentation. But we have many types of enrichment tools that can give us data. We can also integrate to ServiceNow or CMDBs to import information into the system, and again, incorporate labels. And we can also export information to a third-party SIEM fairly easily from the UI. So everything that you see in Guardicore can be exported, can be exposed through an API. System is very flexible. Okay, so what is the business impact of effective segmentation? Again, prevent lateral movement. As we mentioned, most of the attackers, once they get into the network, they're able to move freely. Guardicore stopped that because we are able to configure policies anywhere without limitation by the infrastructure, and we can configure very granular policy for any server, basically. So we stop the lateral movement because we whitelist only the allowed flows. Okay. Second is protect your your digital crown jewels. This means every company has some critical applications that they manage, and we help protect those applications in a very easy way, and we'll discuss it in the next slides. So, for example, Swift for major banks or other applications. Simplify and accelerate compliance. We help organizations achieve compliance challenges very easily. If it's Swift, if it's NIS, if it's many types of compliance regulations, we can solve the challenges fairly easy and quickly, and we show it to customers. And adopt cloud and PaaS, and also innovate faster, like we mentioned before, with the API and support for pipeline. Okay, I'm going to go for a demo. For a short demo about the product. Just show you the correct screen. Okay, guys. Cool. So what you see here actually is this is the first thing you get once you deploy Guardicore. This visibility map. It's done automatically once you deploy the agents on the infrastructure, and it illustrates the communication patterns that are happening in the network. For example, here we have only 40 servers in our lab environment, and you can already see that it looks very complex. And it comes to illustrate the complexity that is happening in your network today. And if you don't have the visibility tool to visualize it, you're probably not aware of everything that is happening. Okay, all the time when we come to customers, they discover something new about the flow they didn't realize in the network, about something that they were unaware of. Okay, but again, this is hard to understand what is happening here from this map. So we are able to implement many different types of tags or labels on top of this map to give it some business sense. Okay, and now we're looking at the daily map. It's the last 24 hours. It's unfiltered, and it's ungrouped currently. Okay, but if I'm going to group it by the default grouping, you would see that it will look as environment, application, and role. So the same app, the same information, now we see it as environment talking to one another. And it makes much more sense, right? We see, for example, in the production environment, we have 30 servers. It's talking to some other environments. For example, I have communication flows with these ports going to the common services from these source and destination IPs. We see some destination domains we are talking to, some policy rules that are configured on this flow. Of course, we can drill down into the production environment, see what is happening here. Okay, see all of the applications that are residing in the production environment. And for example, if I choose an application, I can see that I have five servers. Could be virtual machines, could be bare metal, could be cloud instances, or could be a mix of all. Okay, it doesn't matter. We can expand this label as well and see the different tiers of the application. And this immediately gives me understanding of the dependencies of the application, the front end, the back end, the database, how they're talking to one another. And if I expand this tier as well, we see the servers that we saw in the ungrouped view. Only now I have full context that this ecom db2 is a production server for the ecom application with a database role. And if I expand this virtual machine even more, I would see the processes running inside the VM. Okay, and each process is tied to the flow, the source and destination IP, and we have a lot of information on the process itself here on the right. For example, we see the process hash, and this hash is monitored against Guardicore reputation services, which means every process which is initiating flows in the network, which is generating traffic, will get validated if it's a malware. He will get inspected. Okay. And we validate, again, if it's a layer 7 rule, we will validate the process is the correct process that is initiated the connection. We will see who is the username who issued this process, the command line which was used, and in this case, some orchestration information from VMware. Okay, so we have a lot of information and context to understand what is happening here. Okay, we know that these flows were generated by this process, and I can, for example, filter by source to destination and see the destination only that he's talking to here. But I want to go back for a second and illustrate something very cool that we have in the platform. Currently, we're looking at a default grouping: environment, application, and role. But if I look at this server, I see that apart from the environment, application, and role labels that we have here, we also have some platform labels. We have operating system and compliance. And we can use these labels, and again, I can add labels directly from here. I can do it from dynamically. I can do it from API. We have many different ways to add labels. But the thing is that once I have these labels attached to the VM, I can arrange it basically by the way I want. So if, for example, now I want to see different operating systems talking to one another, I simply select the operating system. It's still the same data, the same last 24 hours, but now I'm seeing traffic between different operating systems. Okay, I can create a rule that says the Windows 2012 R2 is allowed to talk to internet destination only specific domains. So he's allowed to talk to, for example, Windows Update and other domains, but not anything else. The identity is something else that I can control here, for example. But we will touch that later on. So, for example, now we see an operating system view. But let me go back to the map I showed you before, the environment map. But I want to add a different label inside the environment, which is called platform. And now, for example, I see the same view that I showed you in the initial map, right? But if I expand the production environment, what we see now is that instead of a bunch of applications that we see here, we have first context into where these applications are. So for example, we have 10 servers in AWS. If I expand this platform, I see that these 10 servers are divided into 2 applications working there, right? So for example, if I choose the CRM application, I see all the servers that are working for the CRM application. And for each of them, I have the information I imported from AWS. I have the application. Of course, I can expand this view and see the applications that are running inside the server. As an on-prem server, it's the same for us, and we see all the processes. And this is indeed an Amazon system, right? So we see all the information here for the orchestration. And we also see the actual tags that we imported from AWS. So these are stuff that we automatically imported and populated into the system. And again, what I want to show here is basically the capability of Guardicore to control many different environments and to group the map in any way you like. So if I just want to see, again, applications talking to one another, I can create a map of application. It doesn't matter. And if I just want to see how the laptops are talking to the Active Directory, I can filter by source and destination and just remove all the ruckus from the other locations. But I want to show you how we actually create a policy inside Guardicore. Okay, so when we want to create a policy, what we can do, for example, sorry, let me just log into my map here. Cool. So when we want to create a policy inside Guardicore, what we would do is first go to the policy editing mode. Okay. Why do I have rules here? Sorry, guys. Just for a second. Okay. So we will go to the policy editing mode. And for example, now we will see that we don't have any rules configured here for this application. Everything is allowed currently. All the flows are gray. And what we need to do in order to configure the initial policy is to right-click my application and select Create Application Segmentation Policy. I have another option to create Microsegmentation policy, which is more strict. But for example, now we will create the application segmentation policy. It will do 2 things for me. The initial thing, it will allow all the internal traffic from anything that has a label environment development and application ecom to itself, okay, in any TCP and UDP port. And we can see it here that the internal traffic is permitted. Okay, we can see it in green because all of these three labels have both the development and e-com label. We also see that we have another line colored in orange, and this is because the alert rule was created here, that any traffic that is trying to access my development environment and e-com application in any port will get an alert action. This rule will allow any traffic trying to access my application, but will create a policy violation incident. This is for not dropping any traffic while we're in a learning mode. Okay, so Guardicore will first encourage you to whitelist the flows and then leave it in an alert, the default rule, in order not to block legitimate flows for maybe 1-2 weeks to give it a learning period to see that everything is sufficient, and then after it's okay, we can move it to the block section. But let's first configure the policy. So what we need to do here in order to whitelist the flow, for example, we want to allow this flow from the jump box to my e-com application. All I need to do, just right click and add an allow rule. This will add a rule for me with the correct source and destination parameters. For example, we see that it added the rules from the source environment infrastructure and application jump box to the destination e-com application development environment, but it also added the process information that it's only allowed to happen from the wget process to the nginx process in destination port 80. Okay, so the enforcement is at a very high level, both on process, on labels, which are dynamic, so if the machine changes IP, it doesn't matter, and on destination port. So what I would do here is just add flows, but I want to show you what happens if I expand this e-com application and then add the flow from a different scope. If I add it from the web server tier, you would see that now when I select to add the rule, it will add the rule with an additional label of a role. This means the system knows to identify which scope I'm looking at and adds the correct labels based on that. So I don't need to worry about adding the correct labels in each side. I just need to look at the correct scope I want to look, and the system would add the policies for me. So all we need to do here to finish the policy is to allow this flow. And now we can see that everything is whitelisted. The UI illustrates for us that everything is whitelisted. The flows are configured here. We can edit them. We can, of course, change everything if we want. And anything that is not permitted will get an alert action of anything that is trying to access my application and is not permitted in the allowed section will get an alert, which means this traffic will be allowed, but will generate a violation incident. So it will notify me that something that is not allowed here has tried to access my application. Let's say I give it 2 weeks, 1 month, I can go ahead and move it to the block section. And then when I publish my changes, it will start blocking all the traffic. Okay. Okay, guys, so why is this important? Why is this important to see actually this kind of segmentation? Okay, so for example, if we take this incident, for example, if we take this incident, for example, we see that here that 2 processes are trying to contact my Tomcat application, okay? But one of them is allowed, the nginx, and the other one, the ATTK, is blocked by the source. And this is done because Guardicore is able to distinguish between the 2 processes, although they are talking with the same destination port. Okay, it doesn't matter for us. We can see the processes. We can also add user identity to this equation and configure that only specific user groups are able to use the nginx. But we can very easily control which process is allowed to communicate and enforce it in the system, even it's in the same network. Okay, and this is for policy violation. For reputation, for example, we can also, like we mentioned before, we can show you known malwares that are identified in the systems as we check any type of process that is initiating traffic. Once we identify a process hash that is malicious, we will notify it on the system and block it if it's going to a bad domain. Okay, guys, let me go back to the presentation. Okay. So how customers are using it? We see customers are using it for environment segmentation. If you remember, this was the initial view that everything is in the same VLAN. We can very easily segment the network and divide it to different networks. If it's DMZ, production, UAT, and it's all software defined, so you don't really need to move servers from one place to another or change VLANs. For example, we had a global bank that had more than 10,000 servers needed to comply because they had development servers in the production VLAN and production servers in the development VLAN. And they were getting fines because they weren't compliant, and they needed to achieve this kind of compliance. They estimated it would take them 2 years to do it with traditional VLAN-based segmentation because they needed to move servers to different locations. They didn't have any visibility. They needed to work with downtime in this approach, and it was very, very high risk for them, and we'll estimate it would take a lot of time again. With Guardicore, it took them 6 months, only 3 architects, no downtime, all 10,000 servers were compliant at the end. And again, it took 6 months only because they needed to whitelist roughly 700 exceptions. What they did is create an alert rule that anything that from development to environment is alerted and vice versa. And then they got a lot of exceptions of traffic going between environments. So this is why it took 6 months. But again, it's not downtime. It's just going over logs and selecting if you allow a flow or block it. That's it. So much, much easier than the traditional way. For critical application, ring fencing is also a major use case that we see for customers. For example, we had a customer that wanted to protect their Swift application. Okay, they needed to ring fence it. The problem it was installed on many different environments, from bare metal, VMware, and OpenStack servers. This created complexity in managing the security for these servers, because the customer needed to work with many environments and move the servers, and they didn't have visibility. It required downtime. As you know, Swift is an important application, and they estimated it would take them roughly a year, and at least 5 people involved. Of course, they require downtime, very complex. And with Guardicore, they did it in 2 weeks. And I want to emphasize it because it was 40 servers. Okay, 40 servers is not a large network. It's a very sensitive application, but for Guardicore, it's nothing. It's very easy. We just deployed the agent there, gained the visibility, did the labeling, and configured the policy with no downtime, no problem. So again, 2 weeks instead of 1 year. This was the impact of Guardicore at the customer. For third-party access control and internal traffic, we can also do user identity enforcement and control which users are connecting to application. We will discuss it in a second, in the second part. But we can control basically user identity from integration to the Active Directory. Okay, I will pause for questions in the first part. Let's see. See if there are no Q&A. Okay, so I'm moving on. And guys, I encourage you to ask questions. If you have anything that is unclear, please leave the question in the Q&A section. Okay, so we talked about what is Guardicore in general and some use cases we can offer to our customers. And there are some other capabilities we have, such as lateral movement detection, scan detection, other features, of course, that we discussed on the segmentation. But I also want to talk about how we secure access with Guardicore Centra, secure remote access, okay? Because as we know, of course, the pandemic has brought some changes in the way that we work. Konstantinos mentioned it at the start. Many organizations are now working remotely, with workforce is forced to work from home. And then employers need to find solutions to enable the employees to reach the organization. And what was once maybe 200, 300 employees could now turn to 2,000 employees logging at the same time. And if we think about it, those employees are logging in through VPN connections, VDI or desktop as a service, jump boxes. But usually these remote connections are not going through the traditional security mechanism we have in place, which means we are creating some kind of a backdoor into the organization, right? And when we do it in scale, it creates a real problem for us. Okay, so for customers, I mean, yeah. So We see customers struggling with controlling which applications their user are accessing, monitoring their user, whether it's from VPN or desktop as a service or jump boxes that they having trouble to manage. Again, they have the secure access to the VPN constructor or the VDI solution itself, but from that point onward inside the data center, it's very hard for customers to control which applications the users can access. And we see that usually if we talk about jump boxes, that a lot of customers are using jump boxes and VDI for remote access. We see because it's hard to control what the user is accessing once he is authenticated, we see that customers are using multiple jump boxes, each for different networks. So if you have the finance network, you will have jump boxes for user connecting to the finance network. If you have R&D, you have jump boxes for that, and etc. So again, this is complexity in management of many different jump servers, the rule set. Customers still can control what is happening from the point the user log into the jump box and move to other locations in the network. It's still unknown, unclear, and cannot be enforced. Okay, so it's still an issue. And again, it's complex to manage all of this infrastructure, and it's wasteful. Okay, it's wasteful for the organization to waste so many servers when they can use the same servers for different networks. Okay, managing an IT burden to manage all these different servers. Okay, so what we saw that happened because there was a spike in the requirement for remote access is one size fits all. Because companies needed to continue working, they just enabled access, maybe had a compromise about security, just make it work, that the users can log in remotely and work. And as we said, we're bypassing traditional security control, so it's additional risk on top of the one that we are having from the one size fits all approach. And again, blind spot, no visibility and control, and risk. So Guardicore makes segmentation easier, okay, simpler. We talked about it before. I will shortly address it now. But generally, the process level visibility, as we mentioned, is very important to understand what is happening in your network, to get the granularity in any environment. Intelligent labeling to understand with business context who is talking to who, with real-time and historical data. By default, you get up to 3 months back of map visibility inside the platform, so it's plenty to work with. And policy use cases, like we mentioned, separate environment, ring-round application, microsegment application, and more. So our approach to user access management, it's very similar to the segmentation approach, only with user identity. Of course, give you endpoint visibility into desktop, laptops, VPN, anything, down to the process level for anything that is happening, to control who is talking to who anywhere without without being limited to a specific location or infrastructure, with multiple user policies per single jump box, per machine. So for example, you can control different user permissions on the same machine with the correct policy attached to each one of them. Third-party access management, peer-to-peer isolation, secure connection to SaaS services, and also cost reductions, because like I mentioned, Guardicore enables you to manage the same different policies for different users on the same machine. It means you need fewer jump boxes, because if you can use the same machine for organization portal user and billing users, you don't need a special jump server for each. Okay, simple to manage, no downtime, of course, with Guardicore, no networking changes, and scalable solution. How it works, we have the Guardicore Central Management Platform who integrates with the Active Directory. We pull the Active Directory groups, and with agents installed on VDI servers, on XenApp servers, on Jump servers, on desktop, laptops, it doesn't matter. Basically, any type of operating system, we can give you full visibility and add enforcement with user identity context on top of that. So let's go over some use cases and things you can do with this kind of approach. So the first thing is to get the visibility and control over user access anywhere. Now, I'll move back to the demo to show you how it looks. Okay, so let's go to the demo here. Choose the daily map. Now we have the map here that I showed you before. It's the same map. We see different environments talking to one another, but now I want to focus about, for example, the endpoints. Okay. If I look at the traffic coming from the endpoint to the production environment, I can filter by source and destination. And now I removed all the clutter from this side, okay? So I can see, for example, in the endpoints, I have jump boxes. Inside the jump box, I have Windows and Linux jump boxes. In this case, I'm interested in the Windows jump boxes, okay? Now, you can see that I have traffic coming from the Windows jump box into my production environment, into two applications. And actually, directly from this flow, I can already see users that are logging into these applications, right? But I can even expand this view here and see the processes that these users are using. Okay, so I see that, for example, Adam and Doug are using PuTTY to access organization portal and e-com applications. And of course, I can expand those and see the different applications that they are using. For example, they use PuTTY to access the web server. And this is the web server they're accessing, and this is the application in the destination they're using. So we have very granular visibility to understand what is happening, okay? And you can do it for anywhere. And I can even expand this view and see the process here that these users are accessing to, okay? And this is for a jump server. If, for example, I close all this map, change it, okay, let's remove the filters. I want to go back to the initial state that we were. Now we're looking at the environments again. We looked at the endpoints. Now I can go to the remote access. If, for example, I choose traffic from the remote access to the production environment, now use only these filters, I can see I have also Citrix application here. And in the Citrix application, I have a VDI server. And this VDI server is contacting my organization portal application. And if I expand this view here, I can see the specific server who is using this flow, okay? And this flow will show me again, Doug who is initiating this flow, and I can see the process that Doug is using, and again, it's PuTTY in this case, okay? So visibility level, in a very granular view, we can see all the applications that this user is accessing and see the specific servers that he's trying to access and the application in the destination. And of course, we can control it with policy. Okay, and this is the next step. So visibility anywhere down to the process level. Again, this web server for the organization portal can be in AWS, can be in Azure, can be on-prem. It doesn't matter for us. Okay. So we talked about visualize user control anywhere. We can also do it for laptops, of course. And we also have the ability to control user access based on user identity. For jump boxes, I showed you how we visualize the traffic. Now I want to show you how actually the policy looks like. So if we go here, we see the Windows jump box is going to two applications, right? We have traffic from the endpoint environment, application jump box, and role Windows jump box is going to the production environment and some common services, okay? For example, here it's the organization portal and e-com application. And if I go to the policy, we can see that for the user identity rule set, I have rules allowing traffic coming from environment endpoints and role Windows jump boxes, allowed to talk to my organization portal application in the production environment or the development environment, but it's limited to the organization portal user group. Okay, it's limited to specific user identity group that I imported from the Active Directory, and I have more here, as you can see, as well as local and administrators and users. So it's enforcing based on user identity, and it's enforcing based on specific processes, PuTTY and Chrome. So we see that the enforcement has to come, the user that is logging into the organization portal has to be logged in as an organization portal user and do it from a specific process inside the system. For example, if tomorrow I would use Internet Explorer, this will not work because only Chrome is allowed. And in the destination portal, in the destination process, it has to be Nginx or SSHD, destination port 80 or 22. Okay, so very high level of enforcement. And on the same server, just one line below, we see that we enforce also ecom users to talk to the ecom application from the same processes, the party and home processes, on the same destination ports. But these are different servers. The ecom servers are different from the organization portal. Yet we're still able to control the traffic towards different application from the same jump box. Okay. And if tomorrow I add another jump boxes, currently I have only one. If tomorrow I add another jump boxes, all I need to do for it to get the policy is to associate these two labels with the new jump box in the portal, and it will be the same as the jump box I already have. So basically no configuration, full automation, just deploy a Guardicore agent, attach the correct labels, and the new jump box will get the same policy as we configured here. Okay, guys, very powerful. This is supported both for Windows jump boxes, both for Citrix. For example, as we see here, we have Citrix going to the organization portal application. And if I look at the rule set here, we also see that anything coming from remote access, which is our Citrix application, is allowed to talk to the organization portal from the user group of the organization portal users. So we do it for Citrix, for VDI, for XenApp, XenDesktop, laptop, desktops, anything you'd like. We're able to give you this level of enforcement. Back to the presentation. Third-party access control, again, we discussed it. And peer-to-peer isolation, it's also something we can accomplish with Guardicore fairly easily. We can just stop any user from talking to other users. And for example, I will show you how I do it in the UI. Again, very easily, I will just add a new rule, for example. Let's say I want to block all the traffic from users from one to another. So I would add an override block rule and state that anything that's coming from label endpoints, or let's say laptops, sorry. I want to add anything that's coming from label app laptops to destination laptops, destination port any TCP and UDP, block and alert. Okay, so this simple rule, again, this simple rule is just one label talking to one another, but it's all I need to do. And the moment I press V and publish this rule, no computer or no laptop will be able to talk to another laptop. A few seconds and this rule is implemented inside my organization and everything is protected. So this is the value of Guardicore, okay, that you are able to implement the policy very quickly without changing anything. You have a use case, just label it and implement it in the policy engine. And I will publish it. Okay, back to the presentation. So just to summarize, what do you get from Guardicore User Identity Access Management? First of all is risk reduction. You get full visibility and controls to understand what your users are doing inside the network and to control it with a strong policy that is tied to the process level, user identity anywhere. It doesn't matter where the workload or the user is. Single pane of glass to manage all the different infrastructures, so you have a clear picture of everything that is happening inside your network. Simpler to implement because there is no hardware. You just deploy the software and no downtime, full visibility, and then you decide based on the visibility what to allow and block. Flexible policy engine for a variety of different use cases, as I showed you, if it's environment segmentation, application segmentation, compliance regulation, user identity enforcement, you name it, we can do it. Visibility, as we mentioned, of course, and lower costs to manage everything. So I would go over the Q&A, what you've left in this section. Again, this is feel free to ask questions. I will address them now. Okay, so the mapping is one configuration every user or the platform can be personalized. Okay, so the mapping, I can imagine you're referring to the labeling. So the labeling is, we can pull it from many different sources. We can always I amend it to any specific customer. We create the correct labeling for him, so he will get the best value of the labels and what he wants to see in the network. Okay, but usually we import labels from orchestrations such as VMware, AWS, Azure, ServiceNow, CMDBs, CSVs. We work with application owners to tag them. So basically, it's personalized, but we also can pull any type of label that is already configured in the customer network. So if you have a source, we can take it. Okay. Do you utilize threats to have malicious communication to your system? Yeah, so we have threat lists. We have Guardicore Reputation Services. We have Guardicore Labs, which is a bunch of security researchers that are always researching new attacks in the network, in the internet. We're spreading sensors to see who is attacking us. And then we are discovering bad domains, bad IPs, bad actors, bad files. We also pull from other feeds as well as us. I can put in the description link to our reputation website, and you can see it by yourself, actually. So yeah, we have a threat list. We have threat intelligence firewall that I didn't mention. We can integrate it into customers, and then everything that is going in and out of bad domains will be blocked dynamically by labels that Guardicore is populating. So we can control domains that you're going to and bad IPs. Okay. So this is done. Multiple policy changes coordination in the infrastructure. I'm not sure I understand if there are multiple policy changes that cause an issue on the infrastructure. How do I recover? What do you mean cause issue on the infrastructure by policy changes? Let's say it like that. Everything that you create in a policy in Guardicore, first of all, can be recovered back. Okay, so all the time we have revisions, and if, for example, you created something you want to cancel, you can just go back to the last revision. It's a click of a button. Okay, it's just you select the previous revision, recover, and you go to the previous policy set. And besides, like we showed in the demo, when you configure the policy, you have full context and visibility into what you're going to allow or block. So if you're, for example, going to block something, you will see it. You will see it in the platform that this flow is now going to get blocked, right? It's going to be red, it's going to be orange. If it's allowed, it's going to be green. So again, you can see what's going to happen before you publish the policy. And after that, you can just roll back if you need to. So the agent deployment and upgrade is, like we mentioned, it's a very easy process. The agent is lightweight. We just pull it from the management, and there is no downtime required. You install it. It's a lightweight piece of software. And again, you can remove it, install it, upgrade it. It's seamless to the application and to the network. We do it in production time, every time at customers. I install it, no problems. So if the agent loses communication to the management platform, what will happen is that the agent will continue enforcing the existing policy that he has. Okay, it will continue logging all the events that he sees that happening in the network based on the storage that you allocate in the installation. Once the connection to the aggregator and the management is restored, he will get the new policy. He will send all the update that he stored locally, and everything will continue to work as usual. But if you're losing connectivity to the management, everything is continue to working as usual. So no worries there. Okay. Okay, so agents for NAS boxes, ES6 servers, switches, and routers as well. Currently we have agents running on operating systems. We have like Windows, Linux, Red Hat. Black box is a different story. We can address ES6 protection. Okay, we can address other for example, use cases. We can incorporate with a collector, for example, that we can mirror traffic from the network and visualize what is happening. We can create a policy and alert based on it. We can also integrate into a SmartNIC from Mellanox to protect ES6 servers, to protect servers that we can't install an agents on. So the agent will be installed on the smart NIC itself and block the traffic from the network interface card. Okay, let's see if we have anything else here. Some chat. Okay. I have another question. Okay, what integrations do you support? So we mentioned in the webinar we have VMware, vSphere integration. We have AWS, Azure, Oracle Cloud, Google Cloud, Slack, email, Active Directory. There must be more that I'm forgetting, but if there is something specific, of course, syslog as well. We have many different types of integrations for many different use cases. CyberArk actually also. Is there any specific integration you're referring to? Okay, we have many types of integrations. I've mentioned them. Again, Azure, AWS, GCP, vSphere, Active Directory, email, syslog, etc. So if there's anything specific, I'd love to cover it. Okay, guys, what is time required to typical installation configuration of the platform? Okay, so what is the time required for a typical installation configuration to the platform to move to a production state? This is a very good question, and the answer actually is depends. It depends of the size of the installation, how much agent, how much complexity do you want in the policy. Generally speaking, I do a POC for 15 to 20 agents in 2 days, which means that this includes the installation of the agents, the deployment, the labeling, the policy, and the different test cases that we use. It takes 2 days, guys. It's very quick. It's very simple. Very simple to implement the product. We have SOW, for example, that says that for 1,000 to 2,000 servers, it would take from 50 to around 50 days net. Okay, so this is a very fast project for this type of large deployment, and we have receipts for it. For example, and what I mean is that we have already customers that we implemented in this time frame, and this is something that we do all the time. So it's relatively short. We see customers that usually after 2-3 months from the deployment are already fully implemented. Again, depends of the type of the deployment. But as I said before, when we had 40 servers to protect with Swift application, it took us 2 weeks to configure the policy and go to production. Any more questions, guys? Okay. So if no more questions, Konstantinos.
Yes, Eran, thank you for the presentation. Just to highlight, if you have any questions for Guardicore presentation or any of the upcoming ones, please feel free to share in Q&A section. We can move on our next presentation. Here with us, we have Antonis Proimadis, Senior Pre-Sales Engineer by Fortinet. So Antonis, when you're ready, the Zoom stage is yours.
Hello, good morning. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Antonis.
Okay. So good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for participating to this event. I would like to thank also GCC and Konstantinos for organizing this and inviting Fortinet to this event. So today I will present actually 3 topics. So I will start with small company overview. I will just give you an overview of Fortinet and what is Fortinet today. Then I will move on with our solution on SD-WAN and SD-Branch and how we secure this solution. Then I will take a few minutes to cover the teleworker solutions and how we protect remote workers, how we are enabling users to access the environment remotely. And finally, I will present our CM solution, our security information and event management solution, and how we can receive logs from all devices, all network and application you have on your network, and correlate them between them so that you have only meaningful events and not a large list of logs. So a small overview of Fortinet. Fortinet was founded in 2000. Actually, today it's the #1 security company in the world. And this is based on the deployment we have. We have more than 30% of the global firewall and VPN solutions. So in the world, more than 30% of the firewalls are Fortinet. We are the most validated company. We have many validations from third-party analysts that take our solutions and test them in terms of security effectiveness and, of course, cost. We have the most patents. We have today 660 patents. So we are an engineering company. Our CEO, Michael Zick and Z, they are still leading the company, actively leading the company. And we have the broadest portfolio of cybersecurity solutions. Today, there are more than 30 solutions. We have a global footprint. We are around the world. We are a US-based company based in Sunnyvale and offices in Canada as well. We have more than 7,500 employees. We provide 24/7 support to our customers, where actually our support works around the clock. And we have more than 59,000 partners. The three main advantages of Fortinet are described in this slide. So first of all is the FortiOS. FortiOS is the operating system that runs on more than 20 products. So 20 out of our 30 products are integrated with the same operating system. And this gives the advantage that if a user is familiar with one solution, then it's easy to work with another solution since the operating system and the interface is the same. By the way, I didn't mention in the beginning that if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the question and answer box, and I will answer them just after the presentation. Second is the SPU, what we call Security Processing Unit. So we are actually the only hardware firewall solution vendor that utilize specific designed CPUs. So we don't rely on CPUs that someone can buy from a computer store, but we design our own CPUs. It's ASIC-based, it's application-specific, so this gives the advantage of having a very good performance if we're enabling all the necessary security features like antivirus, IPS, application control, etc., that the next generation firewall needs to run. These ASIC CPUs have the advantage that they offload the traffic on a hardware matter. And the third is our FortiGuard Labs. FortiGuard Labs is one of the biggest cyber threat unit within the Fortinet. It's intelligence sharing. The FortiGuard Labs receive events from the internet, and they process those events. We utilized also artificial intelligence since I think the last 7 or more years. We have introduced artificial intelligence within FortiGuard Labs so that whenever a new threat is identified, to minimize the human interaction and using AI mechanism to be able to generate on the fly a new signature and push this signature to our customers. So what we see as Fortinet is because of digital innovation, this cause also to increase the risk of cyber attacks. So because of the digital innovation, the attack surface is now bigger. In the past, we used to just protect the perimeter. Now we have private cloud, we have public cloud, we have hybrid cloud, we have branches, we have LAN access, Wi-Fi, etc. So an attacker can use any of these surfaces and access our network. So we need to be able to protect, to come up with a solution to protect the whole attack surface. Next is that the attacks are now more sophisticated. So what we see is that nowadays the attackers are evaluating, they are doing their homework when they want to access to an organization. So they will see what are the protections that the organization has. So they will try to create a specific malware to bypass those protections. So the attacks are now more sophisticated. The ecosystem, as I said before, it's complex. We don't have only to protect the perimeter. We have data center, clouds, public or private. We have branches. So in order to protect all these different aspects, we need to have solutions maybe for different vendors, and this produce a lot of issues because of we don't have, and we hear this a lot, there are not that many skilled people. So it's a complex situation to manage. And the fourth is that compliance, whatever we do with security, in any case, we need to be compliant. So we need to be able to provide some evidence of compliance. So what we have at the end of the day is too many vendors. In order to cover all these attack surface, we have too many alerts, and we need too many people to be able to review those alerts and take actions. In some cases, since we are talking about different vendors, we need to have manual responses. So this slows the operations. As I said before, we have there's a lack of trained people. We hear that this every day. We don't have so many skilled people, and then all this introduce cost and complexity to our environment. In Fortinet, what we did the last 5 or 6 years is we introduced what we call our Fortinet Security Fabric. Fortinet Security Fabric because we're a company, as I said before, we have more than 30 products, cybersecurity products. So we have a broad product portfolio. We are able to cover a large part of the attack surface that the organization have today. And what we did is we integrate all these products together so that they can have the same cyber sharing. They share the same threat intelligence information. So, for example, if our client, our endpoint solution discovers something, then this information can be shared with FortiGate, which is our next generation firewall, or with FortiMail, which is our email security. So all these products are integrated and they share threat intelligence. And because those products are integrated, automation comes out of the box. So as in the previous example, if an endpoint discovers a malware, then it can signal the firewall to block this attack from infecting other devices within the network, and this is done automatically. So this is the Fortinet Security Fabric. The last 2 years, Fortinet focuses on 4 areas. These areas are the security-driven networking, everything that is based on our FortiGate, our next generation firewall, and we built their networking functionalities. Second is what we call zero trust network access, and this is our solution to protect, not to allow access to a device within our network before we do all our compliance checks. So we trust no one until he's authenticated. And here we see solutions like NAC, network access control, and strong authentication. Third pillar is what we call dynamic cloud. All our solutions are available in private or public cloud. So you can have the same policy. You can share policies across all different installations. And fourth is what we call AI-driven security operations. And this is the solutions like our FortiCM or FortiSOAR, where we can automate a lot of actions when we correlate logs. These are for Fortinet. Now we move on to our secure SD-WAN solution. If we take a look on the one edge evolution, this is a typical environment we see even today in many organizations. We have a branch. The branch is connected with the headquarters using a legacy WAN connection. This can be like an MPLS connection. And whenever the users from the branch want to access the internet, either IaaS or SaaS applications, the internet is backhauled through the data center. Moving to the future, we see that SD-WAN is gaining a lot of interesting. So what we see with SD-WAN is the ability to combine many connections, many WAN connections to one single appliance. And this appliance will take decisions based on the application and the user and other metrics on which one interface to use. So for example, an SD-WAN solution, we choose the MPLS to go to the data center, but in case of direct internet access, you could use the local ADSL line and access the internet locally. Of course, this introduced some issues, and the issues here is the security. If the internet is, if the users access the internet locally by using a local breakout, then we need to consider security. So as Fortinet, we are pioneered here. We introduce our secure SD-WAN solution, and because our SD-WAN solution is a Fortinet, is a firewall appliance, we are able to add to this connectivity also security features like antivirus, URL filtering, application control, IPS, and all these security features a next generation firewall has. Next, we need, of course, since if we are managing centrally our branches, the one axis for our branches, centrally from a solution, we need to be able to do the same in our LAN, and this is why we introduced SD branch. And in SD branch, what we see is that we have again the same console, the same infrastructure to manage centrally our wireless and wired access. So Fortinet, as we will say, I will discuss later, we have our own access points, our own switches, which can be managed centrally. And because everything is managed centrally from a FortiGate, from a next generation firewall, we're able to provide this, what we call secure SD branch. So introducing security to the whole infrastructure. So what we hear from our customers that still are using legacy WAN infrastructure is that even today they need to have do many manual operations. So the branches routers are still using CLI, so configuration might be difficult. They have, of course, poor user experience. Imagine that each user in the branches needs to access the data center in order to access cloud applications. The cost of the WAN is still quite high. There are numbers like maybe €100 or even more per branch per month for an MPLS line that might be 2 or 4 megabps, so it's quite small. And of course, lack of security. They don't have a way to control security centrally. So what we did as Fortinet, we pioneered in secure SD-WAN. The way Fortinet sees secure SD-WAN is actually a replacement of these traditional routers, and this dramatically reduced the complexity and the cost of the WAN. So we provide simplification, and then since we are able to combine many WAN interface into one solution, the user experience is much better, and we also provide the security connectivity to the cloud. A few words about Fortinet SD-WAN. We have more than 21,000 customers globally, so it's a very mature solution. It's also based on Gartner. Fortinet solution is among the top 3 revenue market share solutions when we are talking about SD-WAN. So it's one of the fastest growing solutions. We have a lot of innovation to provide, starting with ASIC. We have our own application-specific CPUs, as I said before, that this provides very good performance if we compare this to competition. And since it's a next-generation firewall, we have more than 100 capabilities that comes together with our SD-WAN solution. And also, we have a lot of recognition from third-party analysts like Gartner, like NSS Labs, that they test our solution and they either and they provide their certification that the solution is a recommended solution, like NSS Labs does with the SD-WAN. We will see that later on. Now, regarding the components of our SD-WAN solution, starting from bottom up, we see our FortiGate. This is the next generation firewall solution. It can be either hardware or virtual or even cloud. The small appliance, to cover small branches are using what we call SOC 4. Now it's generation 4. It's a system on a chip, is an ASIC CPU that is able to handle a large SD-WAN performance and also offload all the security features like antivirus, IPS, and those next generation functionalities. Next is our FortiOS. FortiOS is the operating system, runs on the FortiGates. It provides the next generation firewalling. As I said before, Fortinet is a security-driven, we provide security-driven networking. So based on security, then we build on advanced routing, SD-WAN functionalities, the ability to connect to cloud, and also this is the solution that integrates with our access points and switches to provide the SD branch functionality. And third component is, of course, our fabric management center. And this is the management and analytics solutions. In case we have a large installation of many branches and data centers, we need a solution to centrally manage everything. This is our FortiManager. It will provide central policies to all branch FortiGates. And also we have FortiAnalyzer to receive centrally logs and be able to correlate and produce reports. And those solutions, of course, they can be either a hardware appliance or virtual or a hosted solution. Very quick about FortiSOC 4. This is our newest chip that runs on small appliances. It runs on 40F, 60F, and 100F. Those are appliances to cover up to 80 or 100 users. It provides very fast SD-WAN functionality. All the security features can be enabled, and the users will not notice any performance degradation. It's easy to use, and of course, it's SD branch enabled. It's able to manage access points and switches. This is the lineup of our SMB appliances for small branches. It can run up to 60F, and you can see the various interface they have. We have appliances with LTE module for 3G, 4G backup. We have SFPs and gigabit Ethernet, of course, etc. So for SD-WAN, I would like just to present 3 use cases. First use case is in regards with the application experience and how we provide application experience to our users, because what we see from users is that these users, they are working on branches. Those branches today, they have MPLS lines of 2 or 4 megabps, and then at the end of the day, they go back to their home and they have internet lines of 50 or more megabps. So imagine the experience they are facing when they are working, when they are accessing internet from their work, from the branch. Next is the cloud adoptions and how our SD-WAN solution provide access to multi-cloud in a secure way. And finally, it's how we can reduce complexity and provide this and provide a central management solution for this. Gartner produced in 2018 and 2019 2 Magic Quadrants. Fortinet today in the 19 is among the top 3 vendors, among the top 3 SD-WAN vendors. But if this is a public report, you can search on the internet, you can download the report. If you read about Gartner's comments, Fortinet is the only solution to provide security functionality together with the SD-WAN. All the other vendors, they would need to add also a third-party solution, and this, as you can understand, would complicate a lot the management and experience. So first use case is to improve business applications. We have branches. Branches uses MPLS lines, internet broadband, DSL, LTE, etc. And for example, if they want to access the data center, they can go through MPLS, or they can use an IPsec tunnel through the internet and again go to the data center. And when they want to go to internet applications, they will use DSL lines, direct access lines to access local the internet. So in order to enable application experience, high application experience, we have what we call one path controller. FortiGate is able to identify applications and based on the application, steer the traffic. So for example, if it's voice, if it's voice call, then they can direct this through the MPLS to the data center, or if it's a SaaS application, then this can be directed using an internet line. Next, the one path remediation. FortiGate has the ability to monitor all the WAN interfaces, MPLS, internet, 3G, 4G, everything in real time based on the application, and see and check every second what is the performance, what are the quality characteristics of the line. So what we monitor is packet loss, if there is packet loss on the line, what is the latency, and what is the jitter. And based on this SLA criteria, it will use the best one to steer the traffic. Next, segmentation is very important. So organizations today need to be compliant with regulations. So segmentation is very important. FortiGate, since it's a firewall, it's able to segment between VLANs, and also using our VDOMs, we're able to have what we call multi-tenant. So we're able to have within one hardware appliance two VDOMs, two FortiGates, two virtual appliances, totally isolated with each other and with their own policies and administrations. Fourth is what we call VPN, secure connectivity through IPsec. So FortiGates are able to use IPsec tunnels with the data center so that all communications to be encrypted. So this is again a case for best user experience. FortiGate monitors in real time all one interface, and it's able to steer the traffic. What is important is that with FortiGates, we also support what we call ADVPN. So whenever a traffic between branches is needed, we don't have to pass this traffic through the data center. FortiGates automatically will set up an IPsec tunnel, and not a dynamic tunnel with the branch, and they will directly communicate with the branch they want to communicate. So this is the use case of voice or video when we have communication between branches. These are the different traffic steering strategies we have. We have high quality. In high quality, FortiGate monitors all interface and uses only the ones with the best quality. High throughput. In this scenario, we combined all interface and we combine the bandwidth they have. In lowest cost, FortiGate will automatically choose the one interface with the lowest cost. I mean, the one that is cheaper. For example, internet DSL line will be cheaper than a 3G, 4G backup line. And in manual, we just we choose a specific one interface that we want to use for specific applications. Then NSS Labs is one of is an analyst. Those are the two NSS Labs for 2018 and 2019. Fortinet was among the recommended solutions and with the lowest total cost of ownership. As you can see, it's $5 per protected megabps and $2 per protected megabps for 2019. Second use case is regarding access to cloud. Again, we have the MPLS and we add direct internet access lines for to access locally the SaaS application, cloud applications, and the internet. How we do that? Since it's a next generation firewall, we have all the capabilities of threat prevention. Fortinet is an industry leading next generation firewall vendor. We have again Gartner to confirm that. We support IPS, application control, URL filtering, advanced threat protection with Cloud Sandbox. So we're able to detect files and put them in the virtualized environment and see what is their behavioral and stop them if they are malicious. Since more than 70% of the traffic is encrypted, FortiGate needs to be able to read all communications. So it supports SSL inspection. We support TLS 1.3. So all traffic, all user traffic will be inspected by FortiGate. Cloud on ramp, we're able to integrate with solutions like Microsoft Azure Virtual WAN and provide direct access from branches to cloud using the FortiGate appliances. And also FortiCASB is a solution to protect. It's a cloud solution like a cloud firewall. It stands for Cloud Access Security Broker, and what it does, it protects SaaS applications like Office 365 or Dropbox. Since the data center, our private data center is moving to the cloud, our data are in a data center that we don't control, so we need a cloud firewall, and this is FortiCASB that protects this cloud environment. This is a Gartner report from Gartner regarding critical capabilities of one edge infrastructure. And Fortinet received the highest score when the security is security driven, when the use case is security driven. So whenever we have customers that want to enable security, Fortinet is their first choice. This is the Gartner report for 2019 for network firewalls. Again, Fortinet is among the top 2 leader vendors. We're 10th time in a row in the leader quadrant. And this is, I would say that this is normal since Fortinet is the first vendor that developed the UTM functionality within the firewall. Third use case is regarding automation. Of course, what we need, especially in branches, since we don't have skilled IT people, or we might don't have any IT people on the branches, we need an easy way to distribute the appliances and deploy them very easy. So first of all, we have, as I said before, our management solution. This is our FortiManager. Our FortiManager is responsible to provide central policies for next generation firewall and for the SD-WAN. Next is Analyzer. Analyzer is the solution that receives logs and provides reports, centrally reports for all our infrastructure. Then for the zero-touch deployment, we have what we call FortiCloud and FortiDeploy. So what we can do is practically ship the appliance on the branch, just plug it in the network, power on, and then it will automatically register itself to the FortiManager, and then FortiManager will be able to push policy. And fourth is the compliance. Everything is checked based on best practices that we have, or based on market best practices like PCI or HIPAA. So the policies is checked automatically to see if it's compliant with the minimum best practices. Everything for the SD-WAN is managed by the SD-WAN orchestrator. This provides the overlay control and automation, provides a simplified configuration and workflow. Everything is done from the FortiManager interface. Policies, analytics, visualization, you can see in real time which branches are on, which branches have issues with their WAN interfaces. We can have information on link availability, performance, SLA of all our WAN interfaces, bandwidth, traffic, And of course, is the solution that we will do the troubleshooting and debug centrally. Also from FortiAnalyzer, we're able to produce SD-WAN reports. So at the end of the week or at the end of the month, if we need a report, this is we can do this from FortiAnalyzer. Now, if you want to see what an SD-WAN solution would mean for your infrastructure, we have a SD-WAN assessment. We can just put a virtual instance, a virtual FortiGate on your infrastructure, do an assessment run it on for a week, and then have a report like this and see how an SD-WAN, a secure SD-WAN solution would benefit your company. And if you are interested to see what does this mean in terms of ROI, we have a ROI calculator, an SD-WAN ROI calculator in our website, so you can go put your numbers and then you can see how soon you can have the return on investment. So closing the SD-WAN as a conclusion, FortiGate, what we do with FortiGate is we change the conversation from SD-WAN to secure SD-WAN. All organizations today need a secure SD-WAN solution, especially centrally managed. And we have our ASIC processors to do that. We have all our features or functionality I described earlier. And with FortiManager and FortiAnalyzer, we're able to provide the central management of the solution. Now, moving to the next, just a few words about SD branch. SD branch actually gives the ability to central manage the access of the users on the branches. And this means the integration we offer on the FortiGate with access points and switches. Each FortiGate has a wireless controller and switch controller. It's there, you can use it. And it can be integrated with access points and switches. And also in SD branch, we have FortiNAC. It's our network access control solution that integrates practically with any network equipment to provide a central visibility of what's going on your network. So very quickly, what are the components of the solution? It's our access points. We have a wide range of models, AC, Wi-Fi 6, indoor, outdoor, etc. Switches, we have more than 20 switches, data center switches, access switches. We support any configuration you are interested in, like even complex one like MC-LAG, layer 3, layer 2 functionality. And then we have the FortiNAC, that is the solution that is able to integrate not only with Fortinet solutions, but practically with any network equipment and provide a central SOC and NOC functionality. All our hardware, all our access points and switches are covered with a lifetime guarantee. Even if you don't have a 40-year support contract, appliances are covered with a lifetime guarantee. And in regards with FortiNAC, as I said, it can be integrated with FortiGate to provide a central management interface for all our access points and switches. But it also can work with third-party switches and access points and secure the access to these devices, meaning that whenever a user is connected to a switch or whenever a user is connected to an access point, FortiNAC, before letting the user access the network, will first evaluate and check if the user is allowed to access the network. In regards to the management, as I said before, we can manage the branch within the FortiGate interface, but in a large installation, we have our FortiManager for central management of all appliances. And how large this can scale, our SD branch deployments can scale up to, from small branches up to large branches. We have appliances, as I said before, that cover any kind of branch capacities. So this is the last slide of SD-WAN, SD branch. Our vision on SD branch is the ability to have a unique central management solution. It's the FortiGate or FortiManager to provide a full visibility to our customers and include also all the security functionality within the same infrastructure, the same solution. And this reduces the complexity and provides a very low total cost of ownership. Now, moving to the Fortinet Teleworking solution. Regarding industry challenges, this is something that you know that very good. We have the pandemic, but there's a number of other crises that can can happen, like disaster or terrors. What the crisis is doesn't matter. What the organization needs is to be able to access, to provide business continuity to the users, to their employees. So we need to have a remote access solution. As Fortinet, we have what we call teleworker solution, and we combined, we provide actually 3 types of remote worker users: basic users, power users, and super users. Basic user practically is the 100% of all our employees. Everyone is a basic teleworking user. When they travel, when they go to a coffee shop or a hotel, they need to have access to this, when they want to have access to the data center. About 90% of employees are okay with this simple connectivity, but there is another 10% of power users and super users that they want something more. If I go deeper now to this solution, what is the basic user? The basic user is sitting in his home, in a coffee shop, in a hotel, and uses his computer. He will use what we call FortiClient. FortiClient is our endpoint solution and also is our VPN solution. It can provide IPsec or VPN or SSL VPN connection, and using the FortiClient, the user is able to access the data center. Now, if we want to strengthen this a bit more, we can provide also one-time passwords using FortiTokens. So FortiToken is an application or a hardware solution that provides one-time password. So the user, in order to authenticate, provides username, password, but also the one-time password that changes every 30 seconds. And this is the solution for basic users. For power users, we can have something more advanced, like our FortiAccess Point. So basic power users are the users that want something more to have something in their home whenever they access their home, to able to connect automatically to the organization infrastructure. And this is using FortiAccess Point. So we have the FortiAccess Point. FortiAccess Point is connected directly with the FortiGate on the data center. And the user, when is in his home, he can connect to the Wi-Fi and then automatically connect to the branch. And again, if we want to increase the security, we can provide FortiToken in order for the user to provide also one-time passwords. Next, it's the super user. Super users are mainly corporate users, directors, managers, etc. They want a more robust solution, something more robust for their environment. And this is a FortiGate, a small FortiGate. They can have a small FortiGate. FortiGate will automatically be managed by the FortiManager. It will be deployed automatically using FortiDeploy. And as soon as this is deployed, then FortiGate will open an IPsec tunnel with the FortiGate on the data center, and everything will be encrypted. What we need now from the data center part is our FortiGate. FortiGate offer, without any additional cost, client-based remote access solution. So every FortiGate appliance is able to handle a specific number of concurrent IPsec and SSL connections. Then we need FortiAuthenticator for the one-time password validation. And then if we want to offer to the user something more secure, we can also provide what we call FortiClient EMS. And what it does, it provides not only the VPN agent on the FortiClient, but also the security functionalities that come with security functionalities that come also with the agent, like antivirus, URL filtering, application control. This agent is able to provide to work as an endpoint protection solution. So final slide for the teleworker solution. Fortinet teleworker solution relies on our FortiGates, our next generation firewall. This comes without any additional cost, as I said before. And using our management tools, this allows to have a central management connectivity. Moving to the third solution, which is FortiCM. FortiCM is our security information and event management solution. If we take a look of what is needed in the market, we can see that within an organization, I think that this is something you also see in your environment. There are a lot of devices, a lot of network devices, a lot of end user devices. We have cloud, public cloud, private cloud, SaaS applications, IoT, and everything needs to be managed and monitored central. Sorry. So what are the key features of FortiCM? FortiCM has a very good asset discovery tool. This is our CMDB, configuration management database. It provides the central management of, it actually discovers all the devices that we have within our network. It's an automated solution. As soon as we configure FortiCM, it will go automatically and discover all our devices that we have on our network. Firewalls, switches, Windows Server, Active Directory, application server, database server, etc. And it will automatically categorize them in a specific category. The solution is scalable and we provide rapid integration. We say it's scalable because with one instance, we're able to provide a performance of 5,000 EPS. And if we need more, we can just add more workers, as we call them. We'll see that later on, and increase the required bandwidth. It provides rapid integration. We have out-of-the-box parsers to add their logs in FortiCM. So if you go to docs.fortinet.com and choose FortiCM, we have a list. It's updated constantly with new vendors, new devices that we support in our FortiCM solution. It provides automated workflows. So a user, we're able to have like what we call incident response. If there is an incident, the administrator, the security officer, for example, can assign this incident to the administrator of the Windows server, and then the administrator of the Windows server will have access to the logs and check what's going on his servers. And this can be done on a workflow, so we can have a complete picture of what happened in the past. We are the only vendor, practically, we are the only FortiCM vendor that provides NOC and SOC capability within the same infrastructure. So we don't only rely on security logs, we don't only receive security logs from the devices, but we also receive performance log like CPU usage, memory, interface utilization, etc. And we combine both this information within the same dashboard. And this is unique in FortiCM. It's a multi-tenant platform, so you are able to have this as a with one installation to have a multi-tenant and support different tenants. It supports also role-based access, so we can have different users having access to different portions of the solution. And of course, everything is updated in terms of threat intelligence from our FortiGuard labs. So FortiGuard labs provide the threat feed, domain reputation, IP reputation, URLs, indication of compromise, etc. So as I said before, we have our CMDB, our configuration and management database, and this integrates with the NOC and SOC functionality of FortiCM. This solution receives logs with different types of either syslog or SNMP or ICMP or WMI. It depends on the source device. Based on the source device, we're able to collect logs. With syslog, most probably we will receive security logs, device log, application traffic logs, while with SNMP, ICMP, and WMI, we will receive more performance logs. And now let's see what is the architecture of the solution. So the architecture is quite simple. We have what we call supervisor. Supervisor is the solution that receives, that saves all information on the storage, and also provides the visibility of the dashboard. Workers is the solution that process the logs. They do what we call in-memory log correlation. So the workers receive the logs and correlate them, correlate the different logs between them. And then the third role is what we call collector. Collectors are the devices that are installed on remote sites, and they are responsible to collect logs from all the devices that reside on the remote site, and then just compress them, encrypt, and send them to the workers for the correlation. All these solutions can run on hypervisor, or we have also hardware appliances. In terms of hypervisor, we support VMware, KVM, AWS, Hyper-V, etc. And also in terms of storage, we support NFS and also Elastic. Yeah, a few words about the collectors. The collectors are sent in, are installed on the branch. They receive logs from the devices that reside on the branch, and then they send all this information encrypted and compressed to the workers. In terms of disaster recovery and how the solution works, we can have two sites. In both sites, we will have the supervisors and the workers. And if the primary site fails, then through DNS, very simple, the backup site will take over. What we only need in order to have a disaster recovery solution, we need to have a replication on the storage. The solution can work agentless, but in some cases, as you can see here, if we have high performance logs, or if we want to receive logs from DNS, IIS, and other installed applications, we need to install an agent. We have our own FortiCM Windows agent, and also we have our Linux agent in case we want something more than the agentless approach covers. Now, how a FortiCM works, very briefly, what a FortiCM does, what any CM solution does, it receives logs. This is an original log data. It will normalize to a language that it can understand. And then based on this normalization, it's able to do the log correlation. So this is the first dashboard of the solution. This is the CMDB. This is the point that we will see our devices. So as you can see, not sure if it's visible, you can see the categories. You can see under the firewalls are all the firewalls. Under the network switches, you will see all the switches, VPN gateway. What is unique with this CMDB approach is that, for example, a firewall, a next generation firewall can have many roles. Of course, it can be a firewall, but also it can be a network IPS. So FortiCM through CMDB will automatically put the firewall under the IPS in order to use the correlation rules for those logs as well. So in CMDB, we'll see device summary, we'll see discovery of the solution, configuration auditing, because as I said before, it also get logs from performance log. It can also receive configuration. So we can have the configuration of the devices, and if there is a change on the configuration, we can see that as well. We can drill down. This is a drill down on performance and availability. We will see the performance of the solution, health summary, performance data, other data that we can receive through this integration. It can also support business services, so we can categorize our devices based on the business. So we can have devices that are part of our ISO standard or our PCI, so that we can have a dashboard that provides us quick information on what's happening on our PCI service, if it's okay, if there is an issue that we want to address, we want to take a look at, etc. Regarding dashboard, we have a lot of out-of-the-box dashboards. So there are different widgets, device summary, business service, location, identity, PCI, etc. These are out-of-the-box ready dashboards, but also the solution supports customization. So if you want something more specific, the solution is able to provide you through GUI the ability to customize the dashboards the way you want them. In terms of visualization, we have a wide range of data visualizations like bar, line chart, tables, horoflet, dashboard, bubbles, donuts, etc. You can see in the picture. Analytics. This is the dashboard where we see what's going on in terms of logs. We are able to see real-time logs or historical logs. This is the solution that provides us the ability to search on historical logs and see what is important for us. It has more than 2,000 pre-built reports. So out of this screen, we're able to generate a report either based on the 2,000 pre-built reports, or we can again customize these reports. There are more than 600 inbuilt rules. So FortiCM uses out-of-the-box rules. I think this is wrong. Today it's more than 100 rules. Use out-of-the-box rules to correlate your logs and provide you with events. Practically, you don't need to create any custom rules for the solution to work. You will need to create custom rules in case you have custom applications. But in any case, the solution supports custom rules, reports, and as you can see, the interface is HTML5. It's easy to manage and it's very easy to use. In terms of reporting, I mentioned that earlier, we have more than 2,000 reports. They are can be based on compliance, PCI, ISO, and you can create your own reports. Incidents is the first tab that you will see every day you access your FortiCM. It's the tab that provides you meaningful information on what's happening on your network based on 4 pillars: what's going on security, what's going on performance, if there are any performance issues, what's going on availability, if some devices are not available, if there are issues with some interfaces or with memory utilization, or, for example, if a device has a hard disk that it's full. And then, and fourth is what's going on your configuration, if there is a configuration change that perhaps you are not aware. So you will get, when you access the incident, you will get a complete picture of what's going on your network. And then you can drill down based on costs, on incidents, on types, etc. You can drill down a lot. You can see what's going on in terms of events, medium, high events. You can categorize them based on the incident, on the host, or on the IP address, etc. You have a lot of possibilities in the dashboard. Also, what is important, FortiCM is able to categorize an attack based on the MITRE framework. So if there is an attack, FortiCM through the Incidents tab will provide you complete information on how this attack correlates with the MITRE attack framework, which is quite important in terms of also in forensics. Regarding threat intelligence, as I said before, FortiGuard Labs is our threat intelligence source. We get all the information from FortiGuard Labs. So in the case of compromise regarding domain, IP, URLs, everything are fed to FortiCM, and this information is used when the correlation rules work. In terms of vulnerability and risk, solution can be integrated with vulnerability scanners. So we support Nessus, Rapid7, McAfee, Qualys, Tenable, etc. So if you have a vulnerability scanning tool and you want to integrate the findings within FortiCM, we can do that, and this will automatically integrate with CMDB, and we will be able to see those devices in queries on the dashboard. Also, as I said before, we have a risk dashboard where we can see the risk based on a risk score. So this provides you a very quick visibility with colors from a risk from 0 to 100, and you are able to drill down and see what's going on your environment. So as I said before, solution is fully customizable. You can have custom parsers. If there is a solution, if there is an application that we don't support, we provide you the tool, web-based tool, GUI tool to create your own parsers. We can have custom performance monitors, also custom rules. If there is a custom application, then you most probably will need some custom rules. So we're able to, we give you the tool to provide, to configure, to create custom rules, reports, and dashboards. Regarding incident investigation and remediation. So the solution will do the detection part. So we have pre-built rules. As I said before, FortiCM analyze the logs in real time and provides alerts if there is an incident. So if there is something, FortiCM will detect it. Then it will provide you the tools to analyze, to check the solution and see what's happening on your network. It can provide you automatic response. So we have out-of-the-box remediation. So for example, if there is an incident on specific source IP address, so FortiCM can integrate with your FortiGate and ask, or with your firewall, and ask to block this source IP, and this can be done automatically. And then in terms of recovery, we have complete reporting. We will provide you complete reporting on what's going on your network. This is an example in case of when we want a remediation. If there is, if a rule is triggered, then an incident is generated. If we have a remediation action, this remediation action will be sent to the collector, and then the collector will execute the scripts, the predefined scripts, to the device in order to block a malicious device that is in our network. Regarding now compliance and data obfuscation, because of GDPR, FortiCM is fully compliant with that. We support data obfuscation, so we're able to obfuscate information like IP address, username, email address, host name, so that an administrator will not have access to this information. He will only be able to see obfuscated information. And like what you see here on the screenshot, destination host name, it's something that it's not, doesn't make any sense for a host name or destination IP. And then if the administrator wants to reveal this number, if he wants to know what is the IP address behind this hash, then there is a process, again, within FortiCM that can ask the obfuscation from the admin that has this role. So as a conclusion, these are the criteria, the CM criteria that Gartner, the minimum CM criteria that Gartner specifies in the report. CM solution should provide analytics, application logs, behavior profiling, etc. FortiCM goes one level up, and we are able to provide additional functionality. As I said, we are the only CM solution that provides SOC and NOC analytics, rapid and flexible integration, very easy. We can scale up. Solution is virtual. We support multi-tenancy, rapid scale, and we have a patent in terms of real-time analytics. We do that in memory. Workers correlate the logs in memory so that very quick we can have the events. And of course, as part of our ecosystem, FortiCM is strongly integrated with the other solutions of Fortinet as part of our security fabric. So the summary, it's a scalable solution, provides incident response and remediation, the only solution with NOC and SOC capabilities, single pane of glass, and through FortiGuard we receive all the threat intelligence information. Again, what I want to comment here is that together with GCC is our MSSP in FortiCM. So GCC, because of the multi-tenants that our FortiCM supports, GCC installed our FortiCM in their data center, and they are able to provide to you MSSP services, so they're able to provide you SCM functionality in their data center, and this is as a part of their MSSP solution portfolio. Thank you very much for your time. I hope everything was clear. Maybe we can see now if there are any questions.
Thank you, Antonis, for the informative presentation. Again, if anyone has any questions during or after the event, please let us know. We'll be glad to assist you. We can move on our last but not least presentation for today. Here with us is Ashley Blair, Regional Manager, and Leslie van der Linden, Senior Pre-Sales Engineer by NetBrain.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Let me share my screen. So yeah, hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Ashley Blair. I'm here with my colleague Leslie van der Linden, and what we're here today to do is to present an introduction overview of NetBrain. So first of all, I want to say thanks well done to the other presenters out before us, and thanks to GCC for having us today. So to give you an overview of what I'm going to cover in the presentation today, I'm going to give a bit of background and overview into NetBrain, talk a little bit about the challenges that we hear our customers facing at a high level and from a technical standpoint, talk a little bit about the network operations flow today and how automation can be used to help with that process. I'll then hand over to Leslie to give a demonstration of the platform, and then we'll finish off with some customer use cases and then finish off with any questions that anyone might have. So just to start off, so to give an overview of NetBrain, so NetBrain, we've been around for the last 15 years. So we were founded by a gentleman called Ling-Ping Zhao, who at the time was the chief network architect at Thomson Reuters. So he had first-hand experience of managing a complex, diverse network. So he set out to find NetBrain to use automation to improve the way that organizations manage their network environments. So to date, you can see that here we support over 2,000 customers, representing 1/3 of the Fortune 100, manage over 1.6 million network devices. And then here in the middle, you can see some of our customers and some of our partners on the right-hand side. So obviously, big thanks to GCC today. And then at the bottom, you just got an idea of some of the quotes of some of our customers, which give you an idea of the whole value out of NetBrain. It's all about making managing networks an easier task through automation. So to talk a little bit about the challenges that we help businesses overcome and the things that we hear on a daily and weekly basis from our customers. So customer satisfaction is a constant ongoing battle. Improving it is the forefront of organizations to retain those customers, but then also generate revenue by online and offline means. Alongside this, a challenge that we hear a lot is managing and maintaining skilled workers. So skilled workers are often quite hard to come by, and keeping them happy and keeping them on board is a focus for a lot of organizations. If skilled workers leave, they leave a gap in knowledge, which often takes quite a lot of time for companies to recover from. Reduce risk. One of the big three that we hear mostly is organizations looking to protect their brand reputation and revenue, and reducing risk is one of the best ways for them to do this. And then revenue, arguably the most important bottom line figure for organizations, whether that's increase as part of growth or retain it in tougher times, such as what we've experienced with the COVID. And then increasing costs. This goes in line with growth and development. As organizations roll out new sites, new technologies, costs can increase. So organizations face a challenge of managing those and keeping them in line with revenue growth figures that they have. And then finally, it's making sure that they can maintain and stay in line with the regulations, whether that be regional or globally, and also make sure that they remain compliant as well. So these are the challenges that we hear from a top level. And for NetBrain in particular, what we help with network operation teams. So in particular, for the NetOps professionals that we help with, the value add that NetBrain delivers is we help them to streamline their processes. We help them by, the way that they do this is by reducing the manual and mundane and repetitive tasks that their teams are tasked with on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So by reducing that, what it actually enables them to do is the organizations can get higher value from their employees. So employees can focus on projects or initiatives that drive and deliver value to their organizations. So in line with this, technology or new technology adoption is a focus for this. And we can help them to accelerate the adoption and allow them to be more agile through automation. And ultimately what this means for organizations, it digitally transforms the way that they work. So the way that NetBrain does this is all through automation. So what I'm going to talk about now is the resource gap. So what this graph shows here is the projects, and how on the left-hand side is projects, so the importance of the projects to the business, and on the bottom is the time this takes. So as you can see, the blue graph here shows the technology adoption. So as it increases in time and importance, the technical resource, which you can see along the bottom, is just simply unable to keep up. So the way that we can bridge that gap is through automation. So now I'm going to talk a little bit through about the NetOps workflow and how automation can be applied. So this is a typical incident response workflow. So on the left-hand side here, you can see where the incidents typically begin, so default detection. So that is looking at tickets, events, alerts, or changes. And you can see some of the tools that may be existing in your network environments already, which NetBrain integrates with. So what we do is we look at, first of all, is the idle time. So this refers to the time a ticket, an alarm may sit idle, potentially for hours, while the impact continues on the business, or valuable data clears before an engineer is available on the scene. So then we look at next, which is the first response. So this is where an engineer has responded to the incident. So at this stage, there's a lot of manual data collection and analysis that needs to be performed for them to understand what's been going on. So every ticket or device would need to be checked by people, and this is quite a manual and time-consuming process. So once we get past this stage, we look at the team response. So within network operations, knowledge is often very tribal. So it's a complex environment and multi-vendor platforms. So you'll have particular people that may be specialists in SDNs or firewalls or routing and switched in and so on. So if the first responder can't resolve the issue, it's likely that the person that picks up the ticket as an escalation would then repeat the actions of the first person. So this adds time to the incident, but then also within collaboration, different teams might be expected to work on one issue together. So you've got the networks, service desk, security, and often the collaboration may not be efficient. And what we also find is typically, unfortunately for the network guys, they're the ones that are blamed first. Then what we look at this as a whole is the TTI, or time to identify. So this is the largest time within the MTTR process, and it's the biggest candidate for network automation, and it's where we can find and leverage automation to make the biggest reduction in time. Then once we look to identify, we look to remediate, so repair. So this is less time consuming, but there are still risks with this stage. So if changes or the fix is rolled out quickly or without proper verification, it can actually cause more problems within the incident response. And then finally, what we look at is the post-mortem. So it's understanding the steps we took and understand how we can do things better and improve this process continuously. So now to give an overview and introduction into NetBrain. So what NetBrain does is NetBrain takes your entire hybrid network, so traditional, your SDN, your SD-WAN, and your cloud, and it creates a digital twin. All your devices, device diagnostics, and device relationships are captured and stored within NetBrain. So NetBrain essentially acts as your operating system for your network. So with that information, what we can do is we can create various types of maps and runbooks to perform sets of activities within your network. So the value add for our customers that have used our maps and our runbooks is they firstly see documenting to better understand their network. Secondly, they're able to keep their network up to date for audit processes. And then thirdly, they're able to complete and compile basic troubleshooting within their network environment. So here you can see an overview into NetBrain. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Leslie, who will present to you how this is done in the NetBrain platform. Leslie, I'll hand over to you.
Hi there, guys. I'm just sharing my screen. So I trust you can see that. Oh, wrong one. So you should all see the NetBrain login screen. So first of all, what does NetBrain look at? So when we talk about nodes, we talk about routers, switches, firewalls, LAN devices, load balancers, wireless access points, wireless LAN controllers, and WAN-up devices. We also look at the virtual side, so the SDN side, which would be something like Cisco ACI, VMware's NXS, and obviously vCenter to look into the VMware world. Please also ask questions as I go along. I'm happy to jump into any direction that's needed. So from here, we use SNMP to identify the device that we're looking at. We use Telnet SSH to dig deeper into the platform. What that means is we can stick down a seed device and go and discover the network environment. Obviously, routers, switches, firewalls. From here, we gather their username, vendor, and model. And using our patented drivers, we are able then to go and dig deeper into said platform. So within the vendor space, we currently have over 7,000 devices supported. And the device driver that we use is used to understand what exactly is configured within the network environment. So looking at something like a Cisco IOS, which most people have within the environment, we can see how NetBrain actually goes and looks at the config file and gets the relevant root ARP and MAC tables. From here, we do the discovery and we dig deeper even further by actually grabbing real-time information from the network environment. So this is what we call a scheduled task. Benefit of a scheduled task is it can be scheduled and run on a regular basis to look at your network environment. The data that's retrieved would be configs, routing tables, ARP tables, MAC tables, as well as all the relevant security and network back-end processes that are relevant to your network environment. You can add extra CLI commands. And then once that's done, we actually go and build the layer 2 and layer 3 topology of your network environment. So this is the discovery side of your network. So once that's run, we then have a large database that we can then look at to see what devices you have in your environment. So first of all, as everyone's mentioned, CMDB, we have an understanding of all the inventory that we have discovered within the network environment. This is not just the devices, but things like interface and modules. A lot of CMDBs don't actually dig into module details. So here, because we're using CLI commands, I'm actually able to look at a power supply, get its model, and actually get its serial number of that power supply that's deployed within that chassis. From here, I can also run custom reports, and the custom reports can be something as simple as looking at a interface error report across your whole infrastructure. So quickly, easily run the report and see which interface has errors, which one need to be replaced. There might be a box that has excessive amount of errors. Those are the kind of things that we'll get out of this report. Also, because we dig into the configurations, we have what we call the one IP table. Now, as we've seen with both vendors before, there's been mention of SIEM. What happens when something's identified, because we have this one IP report, I can actually go and look for a device and find it within my IP table and actually look and see where that device is connected to. So in this case, I've got a web server. I can drag the web server to an environment. So I can open up a map view and I can see where that device is actually connected within my network environment. So quick and easy. I can look at more information on the device. So I can dig into its information, get config files, maybe look at the topology data and how else it's connected to the network environment. Any questions, please ask. So what does that mean? As Ashley showed earlier, you have an event that's raised within the network environment. NetBrain has the ability to use APIs to tag or trigger events and have NetBrain go in and diagnose the area of concern. So in this case, what we would do is we would run what we call our A to B path between a web server and a database server for something like a slow network response. We then have a runbook that is created at the point in time, because a lot of times when you look at an engineer, you don't always get to the scene or the crime scene as quickly as you should. So here, NetBrain can actually run a report and look at the environment instantaneously. So as soon as that triggered event happens, NetBrain can go out and run a live report. So here you obviously can see the 2 servers are down, but everything in the network looks to be fine. We can also execute CLI commands. So in this case, we ran in, we connected some CLI commands, and I can see immediately there was a duplex mismatch. So as the first line engineer that's getting involved with this case, I can immediately start diagnosing the environment by adding some more runbooks to play. So the first thing I can look at is how the traffic actually flowed through the network environment. So I can understand the layer 2 and layer 3. First of all, as you saw in my CLI commands, I have duplex issues. As most of us know, it's a layer 2 event. So I can open up and see the layer 2 environment that traffic is flowing through. From here, I can see that the device that's in question, as I zoom in, you can see more information overlaid within the map. I can see that there is a half duplex and full duplex description on this link. So automatically I can assume there is definitely a problem. But to confirm that, I can run what we call a quick application or QApp, and I can look at something like a duplex issue. So as a first line engineer, I don't need to understand the CLI instruction set. I can just actually go in and run a predefined runbook. Now, this runbook can be created by a senior engineer and given to a junior engineer to actually run as a predefined case. So here I'm going to run the runbook against the live environment, and I'm going to get some information back from the network. So as soon as I get this back, you'll notice that NetBrain overlays relevant information to this map view. And you'll immediately notice there's an error indication, the line's gone red, and I've got an overlay on the map that actually tells me what side is running half duplex. From here, I can now share this with my colleagues. So the collaboration portion, I can save the map view and I can send off an email to said assistant. It's me again. Oops, that's not help. And I can hit the share button. So now what's nice with this whole process is I would receive an email. I assume you guys heard that. And the email that I received has the please help as well as the map view indicated in the diagram. So I can close that off. And from here, the assisting engineer can now click on this link and it takes him to that same place in time that the previous engineer was working on. I now have immediate overlay. On the left-hand side, I've got all the predefined runbooks and commands that have been run previously against this environment. And I don't need to start fault finding from scratch. The other thing I can do is I've got what we call default data views. So the dynamic data views that we have on the left-hand side overlays relevant information to the network map that I'm looking at this point in time. So one of the things I can do is I can look and see if there's any incidents that have been logged against this environment before. So I can go in and double click my ServiceNow incident view. And immediately you can see a device is highlighted with some interface or incident details linked to it with all the cases that have been opened against that device in the past. So quick and easy understanding what's going on there. So as this engineer now wants to go and do a little bit more analytics, he can just confirm that this is a problem. So he can execute a CLI command. So one of the things that always gets asked is, can I break things? So if I was to do a shut, NetBrain immediately informs you that you do not have privileges to actually do that. It's only a look, no break. So here I can do a show interface, and I can run that command against defined device. So I'm keeping within this map view still. I can execute a parser against this map view, and immediately I have 2 alerts that's highlighted. I can quickly step to those 2 alerts, and I can see collisions. I click on that alert, and I can see there's incrementing data points over time. So I know for a fact that it is problematic. So how do I move on from here? What do I do next? Well, the first thing I do is I can export this whole flow to a document. So save and continue. And this document could then be either used as a next step or as a war room chat around what it is that's been seen within the environment. So that's the first step. So opening up this document, you'll notice so fully detailed document with everything that I've done within that case or within that problem solve is now within a map view. Any questions about that? No questions. Good. Moving on from there, I'd like to resolve this issue. So next phase that we do is we actually have a change management module. So the change management module allows me to go in and actually deploy the fix for this particular problem. So here I'm going to go in and I'm going to go and say fix duplex issue. You'll notice there's a planning phase to it, defining phase, and benchmark. So within the planning phase, I can request internal or external approval. So linking this back to a ITSM tool like ServiceNow or BMC Remedy, Jira, any of those, I can ask for approval to have this process that I'm going to define done. So within the change window, I can define which devices I'm interested in looking at within the environment. I can decide what benchmark I want to do. So I'm going to just decide to back up said configurations for certain devices. So something like config table, ARP table, MAC table, maybe NDP and service, maybe device information. And I could go and run this and grab the information at a point in time. The change that I'm defining. So the nice thing is, I know I need to do a change on the interface. Do I need to go and find the configuration? No, I just hover on it. It pops it up. I select it, save it, put it in, and define the change I want to make. I have the ability to roll back. I can insert variables, or I can load a template from a predefined runbook. So now I can go and execute this change. Well, you'll notice that it's grayed out and I don't have control over the change that I want to make. So going to the planning phase and I request approval. So here I can choose someone to please approve. And that request gets sent off to my email again. And you would have heard I received a ping. If I go to my inbox, you'll notice that I now have a request to approve. Now, I can auto approve this, or I can go in and actually look at the requirement for the approval. So this is normally where a senior engineer would get involved. He'd look at the flow and he'd look at the configuration and he'd make the decision to approve or not approve this. So in this case, I'm not going to approve it, but I'll go through the motions of the change. So you can execute this either in a batch, one by one, or manually. So it can be done automatically throughout the environment. So one of the key things here is we've also added the ability to use Ansible within the change management portion. So how that looks, oops, just open up my other window. So in this scenario, basically I'm looking to upgrade a iOS within a device. So the nice thing here is I can go into my runbook, I can look at my software upgrade runbook, and within this, the approval process is to go through the motions of making sure the device is there, doing a benchmark and grabbing detailed information of the device before the change. So here I can look at the image version, switch details, maybe some device information. I then use Ansible to go in and download software to the device. I can then use Ansible to verify and reboot the device. And at the end, I can do a benchmark to confirm that the configuration and the image has been updated successfully. So I can go back in, compare the results, and I can actually see if my version has changed from previous to new. So that's using NetBrain's change management to execute commands within networks. So the other benefit of this is I can share this with teammates. So the scenario really goes through, I need to deploy a new server, I need to change a firewall rule, and I might need to change some network processes. This is where I can do that all from a single location with a map view that I can then export as a complete document at the end, and basically have a summary document that can be put down on someone's desk. So that's one of the key benefits. The other things that we have within NetBrain, obviously, is the ability to trace along a path. So one of the key things that you might find, a user complains she can't get to a certain environment. Here we can actually go through, run an A to B path, and I can see exactly what a firewall rule might do to the traffic as I flow through a network environment. So everything's working fine until I get to a firewall, and I can see that it's been blocked by a specific rule within the firewall. Once again, I can go into my change management, request a change, have this map shared with everyone, and go through that motion. Any questions so far? It's good on time. So what are the benefits as well within NetBrain? So one of the other key things, obviously having a understanding of the network environment. I have the ability to understand if there are asymmetric routes within my environment. So I can look and overlay data relevant to a network engineer, and I can quickly see how the traffic flow varies and what information might happen, or how the configuration is limited to the change within the environment. I can highlight routing protocols, so overlay relevant information. And once again, I can go in and I can export this information to a document. A lot of times we get asked, why not a PDF? Have you ever edited a PDF? It's really hard. Yeah, I can add in extra information, sort of, you know, what's the path? Is there device information, extra layer 2 and layer 3 information, maybe some overview information. So from here, when I export this, I now have a document, once again, that I can put on someone's desk that understands or gives me a full understanding of the network environment. Should have selected less information. I do apologize. So here you can see, as I open up the document, once again, a lot of information that's shared with the user. There's a Visio diagram. I can double click into the Visio diagram. It's created on the map. And the nice thing here is I can move all the devices as per a normal Visio edit. And I can add extra information into the map view as needed. So it's time-stamped. The other benefit is within NetBrain, when we're doing our scheduled tasks, we have the ability to keep all of those maps updated. I can also keep historical versions of those Visio maps. So the benefit here is add, move changes within network environments. I can track based on a map change within the network view. So don't have to do my documentation updates. It gets done automatically for me by NetBrain every time a scheduled benchmark runs. I also have the ability to do health checks. So we have what we call a golden baseline but runs in the backend and looks at predefined metrics within the environment. And I can immediately see if those metrics have changed by looking at a baseline on a device. And as I scroll in, you'll see there's more information overlaid. And I can see that the load index might have changed. And I can go and have a look and see what that load index looks like over time. And this is all exportable once again. So we've covered inventory report, we've covered one IP table. We have a change analysis report as well. And the change analysis report, because we look at all the data points and because we grab them every time we do a benchmark, we have the ability to go and have a look and see if anything has changed within the network environment over a period of time. So here I can see there has been a configuration change. I can compare the configuration change, and I can actually quickly drop down and see what that change is. So in this case, it's actually just data change. It's not a physical configuration, but there might be a MAC table that's changed. So I can see before and after. So 2 were added, 2 were modified, and everything stayed the same. So quick and easy understanding of the data environment within your network. We also have a single pane of glass where you can basically go and overlay sensor data within the network environment. And that would look a little bit like this. And you can add the relevant dashboards that you want to within the environment. So you can run scripts with memory, CPU charts, maybe interface utilization, and these can be shared across multiple devices, and you can just build them on as you need to. You can add more widgets. So there's, once again, lots of different charts and graphs that can be added. Data center relevant, health checks, failover states of devices, interface information, list goes on. This can all be customized as well. So one of the biggest benefits is the customization of all these runbooks, the Q apps that we have. Everything can be changed to reflect or address your network environment to the best. And that's really NetBrain in a nutshell. Handing back to Ash.
Thanks, Leslie.
You can share your screen again.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work it out. Give me 2 minutes. Okay, you see that okay? So yeah, thanks, Leslie. So yeah, that gives an overview of the NetBrain platform. So now that we've seen the platform in action and how we do it, I'm going to refer back to the MTTR workflow to show you how automation can be used to improve the workflow we referenced earlier. So it can be achieved by automating at each of these stages, or we can continuously improve so that if we were to hit the same problem or issue again, we'll be able to resolve it faster or better than before. So the first opportunity is triggered automation. So triggered automation essentially comes into action the moment an incident is detected. And the purpose of that is to capture valuable problem data and initiate the first level diagnostics. So the value at this stage here is that we can effectively reduce every first response time to 0. So this helps us to close the gap between the detection of the fault and the action of investigating. The next stage then looks at the first engineer. So this is through interactive automation. So where we can assist the first response engineers with guided troubleshooting. So the first engineer's priority generally is collect the right data quickly, accurately, and then also efficient analysis. So this typically today includes or involves manual command line digging, well, the goal here with automation is to accelerate this diagnostics. So then through escalation, automation solution can help to collect and be a platform that can share the information across teams so that they can work on the same problem through one platform at the same time. So this all helps reduce the need for escalation and minimizes the time that teams would take on collaborating issues. And then when we look at remediating the problem, it's all about using automation to push out the changes safer than before, but then also it can be used to verify the impact that those changes will have on the network before those changes are made. So then finally, the last stage, and probably one of the most important for ongoing business success, is the term of proactive automation. So this is capturing those lessons learned from every outage in a post-mortem analysis, and then converting that knowledge into automation at an earlier stage. So it's all about understanding what steps were taken and how we can do this better next time. So then again, referring back to NetBrain and how NetBrain can be used and how our adaptive platform applies these automation methodologies to reduce MTTR. So as we said before, and in a demonstration, there's two key technologies that NetBrain uses. So we have the dynamic map, the deep visualization of the network, and then also the executional runbooks. So automated diagnostics, collection, and baseline analysis. So the NetBrain response can be triggered at the moment of the event. So the triggered automation. So here NetBrain can run a map and the low-level diagnostics without any human interaction as a first response. So essentially we say this as capturing the crime scene. Then when the engineer arrives on the scene, they can then evaluate what has been done by the system already. And then on top of that, they can leverage the runbooks through NetBrain to drill down and understand more data and information and compare historical data for the one that they've seen today. That then ties back to the post-mortem I spoke about earlier. If escalation is required, all teams, so I mentioned before, security, service desk, NetOps, they can all collaborate using NetBrain, which can share the holistic view of the network, and they can collaborate in real time. So again, this is all about accelerating the time and reducing the friction between collaboration between teams. And then finally, yeah, map and changes across the interface can be verified and the impact of those verified before the change on the network. And then finally, we look at the proactive and understanding, okay, how can we use automation to improve our process constantly? So then it ties back into do better next time, so that we can constantly develop and change the way we work through automation to improve the response times. Has anyone got any questions on that workflow or anything that's been presented so far? Okay, if not, then what I'm going to talk about now is a couple of customer use cases of how they use the key components of the NetBrain platform to improve the way they manage their networks. So the first use case is going to talk about the network documentation. So this is a global customer of ours. As you can see a quote here. So to give you an idea of their previous state of documentation, something we see very frequently, it was manual, so quite a large environment, lots of sites. It was inaccurate, so it was not constantly updated with changes being made in the network, and therefore was incomplete. So it was actually missing critical information which would be needed for the troubleshooting processes. So the after scenario, once they implemented NetBrain, was they're able to document over 1,000 sites automatically. They were able to document that faster, but then also update those documents as and when changes were made. So they're able to baseline 150 application flows, so verifying those with whitelist and security policies. They're able to document network baselines, and they were able to convert dozens of playbooks into executional runbooks. So again, codifying that knowledge within NetBrain, enabling the lower level engineers with the knowledge of the higher tiered engineers. So then the next use case is about troubleshooting automation. So this is a managed service provider, and the before state for this company was lengthy outages. So their mean time to repair was over 4 hours. So this, often associated with revenue loss, is a huge problem. They were relying on one or two members within the team who were experts at troubleshooting. If those people were out of the office, on holiday, on leave, or left the business, it left a gap for this organization. And it was unpredictable. The outages, they weren't sure what was the impact that would have on the business. And that was an issue for them moving forward. So through NetBrain, what this customer was able to do, they were able to reduce their MTTR by 35%, and that's dropping. So again, being able to identify being the biggest part of the MTTR workflow was a huge benefit for this customer. They're then on top of that able to diagnose, automate hundreds of diagnostics every day with zero human touch. So again, using NetBrain as that first touch without any engineer input at all. The senior knowledge was transferred across the team. So it removed the over-reliance on one or two members of the team. And then finally, they're able to use NetBrain as a single pane of glass through other tools. So again, NetBrain being used as the operating system of this customer's network environment. And then finally, we look at new technology. So SDN technology is something that we're seeing increasing with our customers due to the benefits that has for net teams, NetOps teams. So before NetBrain, this particular customer, which is an airline, so they had no visibility of their ACI infrastructure. So what we find is it's not very practical to document SDN environment because how dynamic it is. Again, this had an impact for their outages. So for this customer in particular, they had 5 hours mean time to repair where the ACI network was involved. And then also, again, the lack of knowledge within the team meant for this customer, they were relying on an ACI architect. So again, this all talks about the lack of knowledge across the team and them not having the access to the knowledge that they need to identify issues in a good time. So again, looking at the after scenario by using NetBrain, they're able to automatically discover and document the ACI environment. So this is also their overlay and their underlay environment. They're able to map 100 cross flows across the hybrid infrastructure. So not only would they be able to improve the visibility into their ACI environment, they also were able to have better visibility into their legacy environment also. They're able to diagnostic data from the APIC toolset, and then also able to share the SDN specific knowledge and expertise across the team. So again, if the knowledge across the team is improved, they don't have the reliance on one or two people. So it's all about enabling the NetOps team, the security teams, the service desk teams with the knowledge that they need to resolve issues faster. So those are 3 use cases. And now this is a use case that has some numbers around MTTR reduction. So this is a large retail customer. And on the left here, you can see the difference between the manual activity and the automated processes. So starting at the no fault found, manually, it was taking this customer in particular 1 hour to get to the endpoint. Through automation, they were able to reduce this by up to 75% to 15 minutes. Then again, moving to diagnosing the issue. This customer, manually, it was taking them on average 8 hours per incident to diagnose. So this is a huge amount of time for any team. By automating this process, they're able to reduce that time by up to half, reduced to 4 hours. So again, this meant that the teams were spending less time identifying, resolving issues and working on issues or problems or projects that are going to drive value for the organization. And then looking at a specific report type or incident, so P1s. So manually, it was taking them 24 hours per P1. By automating this process, they saw a reduction in 75% to 6 hours. So again, this slide is just here to show for some customers that the value realization through automation is huge. It frees up their teams to focus on more important tasks, and teams are spending less time firefighting. So finally, now just tying automation back into what does this mean for businesses? So here we have the CEO goals at the top, and then the goals and objectives that we hear from the CIOs and the CISOs that we speak today. So the CISO and the CIO goals are more technically focused. So looking at things like increasing the uptime and reducing the mean time to repair, reducing their operational costs, cyber defense and vulnerability ID, and also enhancing collaboration. So then looking up, what does this mean for the CEO's goals? So again, it ties into the business objectives I spoke about at the beginning, improving the customer satisfaction, increasing the margins, being compliant and reducing risk, and also retaining and growing the talent and the skills that they have. So adaptive automation can be applied across all of these silos, and then that's what NetBrain has presented today through our maps and our runbook functionality. And then here you can see a quote from one of our customers who managed to attain the return of investment from NetBrain simply through the POC. So it's looking at not just the initial deployment, it's the ongoing projects that NetBrain can help with to realize their value. So that's presentation about NetBrain. Thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Thank you, Ashley and Leslie.
No problem at all.
So this was our last, but again not least, presentation of the day. Closing, would like to thank Guardicore, Fortinet, and NetBrain, and especially Eran, Andonis, Ashley, and Leslie. And thank you for the participants who joined us on our first remote event of the year. This was our first of our event series, so be sure that more similar events will follow up throughout the year. In the upcoming days, you will receive as well the webinar recording. And in case you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. We'll be more than happy to assist you, of course. Again, on behalf of GCC, thank you all for joining and wish you a great day ahead. Thank you all.